Konnichiwa, everybody. Yes, I am here. It's Marcus Beer introducing Invisible Walls 191, the Christmas edition, where you can feel all happy and glowy. Kick-ass crew this week. Joining us shortly is Mr. Michael Pachter, who will be talking about some Naughty and Nice awards. We also have Patrick Morales.
Happy Kwanzaa, y'all.
Ryan Stevens.
Happy Chewbacca.
And Brandon Jones.
Feliz Navidad.
Let's crack on.
Century, doing something mean to it. Do it better than anybody you ever seen. Do it. Screams from the haters. Got a nice ring to it. I guess every superhero need his.
All right, so next up, we are going to award our Naughty or Nice awards. And for this, we are joined by the Prince of Pack Attack, Mr. Michael Pachter.
Thank you very much.
Elvis. Okay, so the idea behind
Elvis's
this is,
ghost.
you know, every year we talk about, you know, third parties and we grade them and everything. This time we're going to pick 4 or 5 of the, you know, the developers who've had, or the publishers who've had big years, and we're going to grade them Naughty or Nice based on the gaming section. And then, Michael, you are going to chip in with Naughty or Nice on whether they made money or not, whether they were profitable, and whether they behaved like a responsible business, basically.
Piece of cake.
Exactly.
Ready to go.
That's why you're here.
Bring it on.
So we're gonna go with the company I think that's gonna get double naughties across the board, and we're gonna start with THQ. They've had less than a banner year, it has to be said.
Yeah, I'm the one who snuck that one onto the list. But I mean, I figured with Michael Pachter here, I mean, you hear things like you normally don't hear about other companies, like their working capital is ridiculously low. I know they just won that lawsuit with Ubisoft.
Yeah.
But I'm just curious. I mean, is THQ going to be around in a couple years?
I think that THQ at its current rate of spending will run out of cash in about 10 months, maybe 9 to 10 months. They will stay in business if somebody's willing to give them cash. So if they can borrow money, they're fine. If they can issue more equity, they're fine. And I think that the other thing they can do is cut their current rate of spending. So you saw them lay off their family-friendly group of people last week. If they keep doing that, if they keep cutting costs, I think they're okay.
They've shuttered a lot of developers.
They
I mean,
have.
I know Homefront wasn't critically acclaimed, but I thought it did pretty well commercially. And
But they signed
Chaos.
Crytek. They signed Crytek to do it, which, you know, if you think about external developer versus internal, one is fixed costs. So the internal guy, you have to pay salaries no matter what. The external guy, essentially, you pay a success fee. You know, they may front a little bit of capital, but they're going to end up giving Crytek a share of the profits.
Do you think they have a bit of a brain trust, though, with Patrice and Itagaki at this point? Or is that kind of not something that's even on the books? I mean, like, you know, gamers are really into that, but like investors and stuff like that.
I'm not a buyer of Itagaki because I think he makes niche-y, very highly rated games, but that don't sell very highly. So I don't think Itagaki is as big a coup as Patrice. Patrice is a proven quantity. The guy gets it, and you know he'll get it with another company if THQ isn't around to pay him. I'd say THQ can make it and will make it. I think they'll honor their contract with Patrice. I just don't think that investors are going to get rewarded over the near term. I mean, stock will probably go down to pennies, you know, before they turn it around. But they're not quite dead yet. And you know, I think management, they're going to have to cut costs. They've got to stop making things like SpongeBob, you know, and Puss in Boots, because they're not making money on any of that stuff anymore. And U-Draw, they're not making any money on that.
Well,
so all the family.
U-Draw was horrible. I mean, it was.
I thought it did really well last December, but then didn't it fall off the face of the earth?
Then it fell off the face of the earth. I mean, it was
yeah, and
basically-
again, it's the company and I have not agreed about that. They've been arguing with me for all year about that. I said it 8 months ago. The U-Draw was not going to repeat. It's a peripheral. It's this year's Guitar Hero.
Well, now Ubi's has their own version, right?
And that's not going to sell well either. But if you're a retailer and you have Ubi selling 17 million copies of Just Dance, you'll take some of Ubi's tablet, you know, whatever they call it, Smart Draw. I forgot what they call it.
So let's talk about THQ from the gaming perspective. It's not been a banner year for them. I mean, Homefront came out. A lot of people, myself included, was very stoked about this game, you know, coming out because, you know, it was this fictional Korean War, and I thought it was going to be really, really cool. And I just got into it, and it was just
the single player was dog shit.
Yeah, it dragged
I heard the
like
multiplayer
hell.
is good. I haven't touched it, but people like the drone stuff. But
It's probably the best part of the game.
But then, like military shooter wise, you know, you're all gonna bow to Modern Warfare and Battlefield this year.
And then they had Warhammer come out towards the end of the year, and
Space Marine?
Space Marine had some some good reviews, but it didn't. It came out at a time where it was
It's
going to
called
get
Space Marine. It's like it's a known quantity.
But it was going to get hammered by Gears 3, and because didn't they release it literally I think a week before or the week of Gears 3? I mean, it was up against a big launch, and that was never really going to make a dent in a lot of people's must-have lists. So there was no MMA game this year, if I remember correctly, because I know
I think there's the personal training game, but yeah, none from the main.
Yeah, UFC's
Yeah.
the UFC's spring.
Right. Okay. So UFC is spring, and that's obviously that was the one that was a really huge moneymaker for them. WWE came out a couple of weeks ago, and that's traditionally a money spinner for them, but we've not really seen much of that anywhere. So I think my perspective
Wait, you left out Saints Row.
Actually, I apologize. Thank you for reminding me. I actually really liked Saints Row.
Did it?
As
it
did
chart?
every critic I talked to.
Except
said
for
it
me.
was
Except for you. You just didn't
And
get the
Edge.
humor. Yeah, well, it's Edge. They don't get the humor.
And Yahtzee.
And
like
he doesn't
it.
get
I'm
the
talking
doesn't get
about
the-
love the first game.
guys who gave it like an 80 are Giant Bomb guys are like, it's our favorite game to play.
It is. It's,
They dinged it critically, but they love the game. Cheap ED at Cheap Ass Gamer is like, I've never had more fun playing a game. I know dozens of people who just say, if it wasn't flawed, it would be game of the year. They loved it. And again, I think it's over the top crazy, but
I think on the whole, I'd have to give them a naughty, just because I don't think they really brought it gaming wise.
Gotta get the Skylanders together. Skylanders!
All right, moving on. Let's pick another one. You know what, Michael? Look at that list. Who do you want to talk about?
oh, I'd love to talk about all of Activision's games other than World of Warcraft and Call of Duty.
Well, we can't talk about World of Warcraft because that's a Blizzard game, and I am not
Blizzard?
I am not pairing Activision
All right,
with
so
Blizzard.
let's talk about all of Activision's games other than Call of Duty.
They have other games?
Well, there was the X-Men game and the Spider-Man game.
Cabela's
Yes.
Big Adventure.
The one thing they did do this year that
That's
was
Activision
interesting
budget.
was Skylanders, which is an interesting concept. It was the Spyro game. It came with the little toys that you could swap out with your friends.
Did you play it?
I played it.
I thought it was really cool, and I'm not a game reviewer, obviously, but it surprised me how well executed it was.
Like the concept. I thought the Spyro game itself was pretty piss poor. But I think it's interesting that this was the one game that made Toys R Us top 10 games of Christmas 2011. I think if Activision is smart, and this is proven a success because it is selling like gangbusters, that with Transformers and the Marvel licenses they've got, that this would be ideal for doing a Transformers game with with this particular thing where you can swap with the Transformers
the
toys.
question is how do you get adults to buy this sort of stuff? I know what's his face, Jeff at Grisman at Giant Bomb has collected all of them, I've heard, but. Jeremy Hoffman, our producer on GTTV, he had an idea that like Tony Hawk, if you had little decks, skate decks, and then you would have the children and the adult market, and you could go
that'd be
anywhere
fun.
and do stuff because that is all stat driven as well. But then the Tony Hawk game ended up being the remake of the first game. So
Well, if you
I thought it was a pretty good idea.
But it is a good idea. If you go back to the Transformers one, if you make these really cool Transformers toys that the geeks and the nerds and they will want to collect, then all of a sudden you've got something that's more mass market.
I was surprised to see some of this virtualization of items is gotten more than Skylanders. I was in a Toys R Us with Chris, our new guy, and he actually bought this little Donald Duck thing, and it had a little tag that actually unlocked games in Connect Disneyland Adventures or whatever
Oh, right.
it's
All right,
called.
yeah.
Right.
So I mean, it's not really that idea of like saving your data and stuff like that, but here's another idea of like a physical item buy-in to like unlock stuff.
Which
Kinda
was the
interesting.
Webkins model. I mean, that's what Webkins. I know you probably didn't play with those.
No,
But
of course not.
that's
he's
the
actually got
Webkins
he's
model.
got Webkins pajamas.
Underoos.
I'm surprised. Yeah, I'm surprised it wasn't like a Magic the Gathering like Connect play where you like buy a Magic card and then put it all
Well,
pull it up. to
I mean,
Connect.
Eye
kind
of
of an-
Judgment tried to do that, but Eye of Judgment never really caught on, and one reason was
Right,
it's
but-
way too
yeah.
simple.
It was kind of reversed back in the day when you were in Magic Online and you collected every single set
They would
digitally.
send it to you.
They would mail you the whole
Yeah.
thing physically.
Also, too, why Spyro? Like, I don't understand why not just create a brand new franchise. Like, why? Like, does anyone care? Did anybody buy that game for Spyro? Like, I don't know
Well, I don't-
what they gained by.
I don't
Well,
think they did.
certainly
hacking him onto that.
kids under 10 don't even know what Spyro
Yeah,
is.
and they're the ones that are they're the audience.
Is it a bad game for 8-year-olds? That's my
It's not a
question.
bad game for 8-year-olds.
And it's fun for the dad to play with the 8-year-old. So
That's cool.
and it's harmless. Like the The violence is really cartoony, good violence. I mean, it doesn't bother you if the character.
I wish the
boots
toys
away.
moved though.
So what else have they done? I mean, it's not been a stellar gaming year from Activision. I mean, they've not really done anything. Looking at keeping Call of Duty in the box until we open it up and add it to the mix. Has anything stood out from anybody from Activision?
No, not in particular.
Guitar Hero's dead. Tony Hawk.
Yeah, there's nothing really. And so on the business perspective, business side, I mean, you see their results, you see the MPD, which we're not allowed to see anymore apparently. How have they done? Taking Blizzard stuff and taking Modern Warfare out of the equation.
They're minting money. So just to give you earnings per share, they made 69 cents a year ago. They're guiding to 79 cents. Yeah, they're guiding 79 cents this year on lower revenue. So they're making more money with less revenue, which means that.
And that's including Modern Warfare, yeah.
So they've done what THQ can't do. They've cut out all the stuff that doesn't make money, and unfortunately, those are titles we like. So Guitar Hero and Tony Hawk kind of got cut, and I think Activision's a victim of its own success. They don't want to try anything unless it's $1 billion business. So Blizzard's $1 billion business, and Call of Duty's $1 billion business. And I actually think Skylanders might ultimately be something giant, because I think you're right. I think they can do all sorts of characters, but it's hard for them to greenlight a project now. And when they make something like Cabela's, which is very profitable for them, those little budget games,
Yeah,
we don't
Their
talk
Minneapolis
about
studio.
the deer hunting
Right.
simulations.
Right.
Yeah. All right, so naughty or nice ratings. We'll go around the board. Patrick.
Well, considering I don't really enjoy too many Activision games, I guess I'll give them a naughty. But
Ryan?
financially, they did nice.
I think that I wouldn't say they'd get any coal. They'd probably like some carbon-based fuel anyway. So I'm going to give them a nice though.
You're gonna win a nice.
Yeah.
Based on the game stuff alone.
Are we still subtracting
we-
Modern Warfare?
You can put everything in there. Everything in there.
Well, I feel again. So I'm not talking about the financials because I
No.
kind of feel like X-Men was just financed by the Canadian government anyway. So I don't feel like they really lost much money there.
We're just looking at it from the gaming perspective, and then Michael's gonna give
Okay,
them
they'll get a small lump of coal.
so they're little
Maybe a
naughty.
little.
Little naughty.
Brandon.
I'll go naughty just because, like you said,
Peer
like
pressure.
just completely floundering on both the X-Men and the Spider-Man franchises at this point. Not only that, those games were bad, but like they were following bad games that followed bad games. It's just kind of frustrating that we're getting like brand new Spider-Man franchise. The X-Men is like finally back up, in theaters, and they just can't take the game seriously. So
Okay. I think everybody knows I'm going to give them a naughty just because I just don't think they brought it to the table. Now I'm guessing, Mr. Pacta, they're going to get a nice from you on the fiscal side.
Yeah, financially they're great. I mean, you guys are not considering what they did, the value proposition of Call of Duty Elite, and especially if you bought the bundle. So if you bought the game and Elite for $100, you got 4 map packs for $40 instead of for $60. I think that's a phenomenal value. Shocking to me that company would do anything that appears to be a gift to gamers, and they did. So,
But it appears to be a gift, but they get everybody's money up front before the map packs come out, so they're basically pre-funding everything, which is a very, very smart business
Also
move.
helps them seed Elite.
Yeah, I mean it's a smart business move, and look, I can't quibble with them on the business front with regards to how they execute and how they print their money. I just can quibble till the day is long and dead about how they produce how they stop producing great games.
I thought the Gray Quarter would be a haven for my kind.
All right, next up, Brandon, pick a company.
I want to talk about Bethesda because I'm getting me some Bethesda right now. I'm currently deep into Skyrim, and when that's over, I'm going to get back to Rage and finish that.
Rogue Agent.
Rogue Agent.
Watch it down.
Yeah.
Brink?
So,
No Brink?
no, haven't tried Brink yet, but I
Okay.
hear I shouldn't.
Yeah, you're not missing anything.
You're not the only one.
No, Bethesda's a weird company. I mean, they were these guys who made like one giant franchise, and then they'd put out a Star Trek game based on Mancala, and you'd be like, whatever. But now they bought id. They've been working with Splash Damage. They've been making these giant games that have kind of floundered a little bit. They're trying to become a major player. I feel like I don't know if that's the correct take, but they still kind of seem like at the end of the day with Rage not really rocking the charts, that they are still a kind of one game a year sort of place, with
But-
some other guys just trailing behind.
But those one game, with Skyrim selling or shifting 10 million units,
Shipping.
shipping, shifting.
Christmas isn't up yet.
Yeah.
I mean, it'll be 10 million when they're done.
And all the awards it's been getting has been, no doubt, pumping it up and on. But they've got to fix the PS3 version. That is the one black mark against them this year, is how they've executed the PS3 versions of the games. And it's got the stage where they are shipping games over and over, and the PS3 version is a bag of shit. And they really need to get... They really need to get with the program of that and start either delaying the PS3 versions or not going with that SKU at all, because there's so many people who are disappointed. I literally get dozens of tweets every day, every time I mention Skyrim, from people saying PS3 version's absolutely balked. And they are, they have updated it a couple of times, but you can't treat one platform with that disrespect. And if you don't feel you can do it properly because of the architecture, then step away from the platform, focus on PC and 360, where they do some phenomenal stuff.
Okay.
I don't know if you can pull that off. I mean, you kind of have to address everybody who wants to buy the game, and there are a substantial number of gamers who have a PS3 only.
Unless they can get some Microsoft money, right?
I understand totally where you're coming from, and I'm not saying the PS3 gamers should be left out, but if PS3 gamers are paying $60 for something that on a lot of machines is actually unplayable, where the frame rate starts to drop when the save file gets so big, and because of the architecture where everything's in the cells, it's not really conducive to to the engine that they're using. So I mean, I would rather.
I had that problem. They mailed me a copy of Fallout 3 on PS3. I bought Fallout New Vegas on PS3. I don't know why, and I had that problem with both, and I ended up getting another copy of Fallout 3 on Xbox 360, no bugs at all. And I just don't think that they're very good at PS3 games, period. But it's not different, is it? I mean, is Skyrim different or worse?
It's the same. Skyrim is very, very buggy. I mean, I haven't played.
I have it on PC, and I haven't had a problem.
Well, that's the thing. I'm playing it on PC, and I played on 360 as well. But I'm getting so many complaints from people who bought it and so disappointed, and people questioning the validity of giving a Game of Year when on one system it is effectively crippled. And I think they have a valid point. I mean, I love Skyrim to death. It's still my favorite game of the year on PC and 360. But I think if Bethesda want to make that step to become a big boy, because they are they do have a big stick now in the games industry. They do make the award-winning stuff that sells. They're obviously turning a profit. They have a sound business plan with ZeniMax behind them. I just think they've got to start looking at the PS3 properly and saying, if we can't do it, what are the options?
I have a solution.
All right.
They now basically own John Carmack's ass, right? Dude is a savant genius. Coded Doom on the Jaguar because he wanted the challenge. Locks himself in rooms and does ports. Just let him tackle that PS3 code, man. Just let him optimize that stuff.
Let's get Todd Howard
I'm only
on the
half
phone
joking
right now.
as well. Carmack is the sort of guy who would probably be like, "Oh, this is an interesting challenge. Let's do it." And I bet you he could optimize that guy.
Great, and if he can optimize it, fantastic.
The Rage ran fine on PS3, so I'm just saying.
Yes, I would love to see. I think because they've only just bought id 12 months ago. I think it's only starting to sort of dribble through now. With regards to Carmack's probable influence on their game engines. I think their engines are going to get a lot better because of his influence. But yeah, until then, I would say step away from the PS3. If you can't deliver it, don't risk pissing off tens of millions of people and making them feel robbed.
I have a feeling there's the silent majority of people who are playing Skyrim on their PS3s are happy just to be playing it and plodding along, as opposed to the vocal guys. Just my opinion.
I do have several friends that are playing on PS3 that haven't. When I meet up with them, they say, "Oh, it's great," and they say nothing but great stories about it. And these are not like avid gamers. This is probably one of like 4 or 5 games they'll play this year, but they don't. I haven't really heard just on the street.
Well,
I haven't heard a lot of the glitches.
Do you think that's a perception issue where perhaps the gamer who only buys 3 or 4 games a year will not really notice the glitches and will take him in their stride?
He might not be seeing his friend play it on a 360 and like, "Whoa, that frame looks great." Like there might just be.
And then you've got the hardcore gamers who we deal with every day, who will notice this stuff right away, and they are the ones who are going to be initially more attracted to Skyrim because it is it's a hardcore RPG.
And you're like, it's not worth $60 because you only have about 180 hours of gameplay for your $60. Not worth it. I mean, it's probably the best value of any game
on
ever.
On the PC and the
But on the
360, I
PS3,
am totally with you.
You still have more gameplay on the PS3 than on
but
any game ever made.
And you know what? But what do you
Maybe
do?
GTA 4. I'm
World
not
of
sure.
Warcraft, I mean.
Do you are you
That's
happy?
not PS3.
Are you happy paying $60 for 160 hours of what is essentially not top quality gameplay because of the various issues?
I think good gameplay, like I mean, Patrick, I think you can back me up here. Blighttown in Dark Souls is unoptimized.
Sure.
It's not going to stop you from playing that game.
Yeah, I mean, plus there's also the inevitability that it would probably get fixed someday.
And they've issued 3 patches. To be fair, they
I mean,
they are.
Don't
on
get me
it.
wrong. I figure they should address this issue, but I think it's a little silly to think don't put it out on the PS3.
Or put it out when it's ready. So, naughty or nice on Bethesda? We'll go around the table.
If we're just talking about the game, take definitely nice. Skyrim's really good. Brink not so much, but I think Skyrim does a lot to undo Brink's damage.
Yeah, I'm going to say nice. I actually really enjoyed Rage.
Nice. I think Skyrim is possibly too much game.
I'm going to give him nice. Loved Skyrim. I think Rage cancelled out Brink because Rage wasn't a bad game. Exactly. So they're in the positive. So on the fiscal front, Mr.
No,
Pecker.
I'm impressed that they're getting games out every year, and that this year was 3. Whether they're good or bad, or game of the year or worst game of the year, 3 games out of these guys is impressive, and I think they're kind of giving you a glimpse into the future. I'll bet you see a couple of games a year out of these guys. I'm more impressed at how big Skyrim is by the same team that made Fallout 3. That blew me away. Like, I would never have expected the game to be out that big this early. So they're just an incredibly productive studio, and that is impressive in and of itself. They're going to be a crazy valuable company if they can keep up this pace of game launches.
So when do you think they're going to make me personally happy and announce Fallout 4?
Yeah, good question. Because obviously, Fallout 3 is my favorite game of all time. At the rate, I'd say 2 years. It's got to come out in 2 years. It is a Skyrim team. It's the same people.
So we'll get.
And the
On
Fallout
the
New
iPad.
Vegas thing was Obsidian. It was. I mean, it was fun. It looked the same, but it was really just kind of a expansion pack. Fallout 4, probably 2 years.
It made you see things, didn't it? Things you didn't want to see.
It spoke to me.
All right. So who hasn't picked one? Patrick.
What's up?
I think you're gonna pick the last name on the list there.
Sure, not much of a choice, but let's go with EA.
Okay. Why are we going with EA, Patrick? What are your thoughts on EA this year?
Well, EA is a big publisher. Obviously, they've just launched Star Wars: The Old Republic, which is currently in the pre-order phase right now, where people are just stepping into the world for the first time. But besides that, they've had a bunch of other releases this year. So always a big player.
They probably put out more games than anyone else,
Yeah.
right?
They did start the year with a bang with Dead Space 2, which was really a very successful game both critically and I think it did well on the sales charts as well.
Yeah.
And I think they've had some ups and downs. Origin has been a bit of a debacle, I think, on with their end user licensing agreement and the ban stories that are coming out now where people post one swear word on the forums and their Origin accounts are locked for infinity. And then Battlefield was touted as the Modern Warfare killer and it turned out to be a Modern Warfare clone.
I'm curious in 6 months if it's just going to be another Medal of Honor or if it has staying power.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really curious because Medal
You're
of Honor.
talking about the online multiplayer?
Yeah. Because Medal of Honor definitely was I think we can say at this point, I know it charted like the first month, but that was a pretty big misstep for them in Gun Club. Do you remember that crap?
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah, I know with Activision's like market cap, they're always edging each other out for who's the biggest like third-party publisher. But I mean, EA definitely puts out way more products, or at least way more products of note.
But then we also, it's bizarre to counterbalance that, and we'll go into it shortly in the next segment, but we'll talk about the Old Republic. And the Old Republic, the pre-orders went out last week. I started playing it last Thursday, and I've had 0 issues. But then it's not going through Origin; it's going through a totally different client, which I really, really like. So I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm gonna give them a naughty rating for this year. I don't think they've stepped up. I mean, you take Madden and FIFA and all those versions out. Battlefield was a fail. I think the Old Republic
Alice,
might change
Shadows
it up.
of the Damned. At
Alice.
least they put these games out. These
Yeah.
are the niche games that, for the people that do spend money every month on games, it's something to fill your space.
I think I'll follow Ryan's cue and do like a little steaming coal here. Not quite good, not quite bad.
Is it coal?
Brandon?
I'm going to go nice just to change things up, just because I'm always, as I don't play FIFA or NHL, but I do read those reviews year after year after year, and from what I hear, this is the best FIFA and the best NHL ever, and so I think that's pretty impressive with their. I know their sports division tends to dominate the market, but when you're pumping out these amazing games, that I don't know, I give them a nice.
All right, so let's talk the business section. How are they stacking up to Activision? Because Activision is the 800-pound gorilla.
It's really funny because 5 or 6 years ago, EA was the big monolith and everybody hated them, and Activision was the up-and-comer. And now Activision's the big monolith that everybody hates, and I think people kind of feel sorry for EA. EA's biggest franchise is half as big as Activision's Call of Duty. So Activision
Is that Madden or?
It's probably Battlefield this year.
Oh, okay.
FIFA, Battlefield, Need for Speed all do around 10 million. I mean, Need for Speed this year probably fewer, but they don't have anything that really cracks that. So Battlefield sold through 8 million and shipped 12. It'll end up probably selling 12, but is it a franchise? And that's true of everything they do. They have a lot of games that make them a lot of money, but they don't have any breakout thing. What you guys didn't talk about, and I don't blame you because you're never going to review this stuff. Social games, they started to actually crack the Zynga, ceiling.
Sims Online, the Sims on Facebook was actually Sims
did
Social
well.
was huge for them.
I didn't enjoy it, but yes, it still is huge for them.
We were Facebook friends and we were playing back and forth.
Yeah,
I noticed you blocked it about a day before I did.
It's so lame. I mean, it's not my kind of game. I talked to the Playfish general manager, and he's like, "Well, didn't you ever play the original Sims? It's just like that." And I said,
"Oh God,
never
no."
played Sims." And the point is, with your 50 million or 70 million people who are playing Sims Social, neither did 90% of those people. So you can't give us a Sims experience, make it more fun. It wasn't fun. The other thing they're killing it on is mobile. They're really doing
They
well
actually
on
make
mobile.
Android games,
Yeah,
as
and they're
opposed to
getting
other people.
better. They really are getting better. So Dead Space, I have Dead Space on the iPad.
I have that too.
Is really good. I mean, it was shockingly good for $10. So, and by the way, I don't know what date this is going to air, but EA always has a 1-day sale before Christmas on iOS. Every single game they make for $1. So pay attention, because when they have that, you should download them all, because they actually are. FIFA's worth $1. It's great. So I think I'd give them a nice in terms of more balance. I think they have more balance than anybody. They have less dependence on any single franchise. They can weather a downturn in one franchise and something else comes up. And I'm pretty excited about the Respawn guys working with them. I think Vince and Jason are going to deliver a great game next year. I hope it's next year. So interesting company, and we're going to talk about Star Wars separately. But I think they've done a lot. They got a ways to go, but they're at least diverse, and they're at least focused on delivering a lot of experiences as opposed to the two we talked about with Activision.
They have done a total 180 because, as you said before, Activision 3 or 4 years ago was second place and had more diverse stuff. They had Tony Hawk. They had the X-Men Legends and Marvel Ultimate Alliance, and they had a more diverse catalog. They had Guitar Hero. They were prepared to take perhaps more risks.
Right.
And whereas EA were not exactly known as the most development friendly company, and now it is a total 180 that there's one company in charge and they are like, us, we're not making any bold gambles anymore. And then EA seem to be trying, and if EA get back to they have that one blockbuster out the door 50 million copy game, will they switch back to what they were? I mean, you get to the top and then you get complacent.
I hope not. I actually think Activision is desperately trying to backfill, and I think EA is looking for the breakout hit so they can fund even more of these kind of. I mean, we didn't talk about Mass Effect coming up. They have good franchises. You may hate Dragon Age, but you love
Just
Mass
two.
Effect. Yeah,
I'm with him on that one.
Yeah, I mean, but I think that they have talent in that organization, and they do make, I think, pretty good games. The sports games generally are great. We overlook them because they come out every year, but we like them.
Patrick, did you mention something at the beginning of this? A little game
Yes.
called Star Wars: The Old Republic.
About that.
Has anyone been playing it?
Well, I think a couple of people
Not me.
have. I started playing it last Thursday. My my pre-order copy that I paid for my own cash money came in, and I finally got up online, and I've been playing with 2 classes. I basically leveled up a Republic Smuggler to level 12 and a Sith Inquisitor to 12, just to see both sides of the coin. But I know, Patrick, you've had a little play, and you were playing on the beta, and so are you, Brandon.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So what are your thoughts so far? Because I know, Patrick, you were actually playing it this morning.
I was, yeah. So it's not the beta anymore. It's actually the full-fledged game. And I usually hate delivering any kind of critique on a game before I have, especially an MMO, before I've had the full.
Well, this is a
playing
this is a first impression.
But it's WoW, right?
It is. Yeah,
Yeah, that's
You
what I was
summed it
getting
up
to.
there.
But yeah, I mean, I think out of all the WoW clones out there, to give Tor credit, this is the one that does it the best. You can definitely see some pretty high production values in there, just in terms of how everything is VO'd in that game. It really feels like a single player game at times, where you're conversing with NPCs, just finding out more about the world. And the combat feels pretty much close to WoW in that it's impactful. There's a lot of diversity in skills, but also, there's a lot of sameness there too.
No, I'm with you. I think it's definitely the best of the WoW imitators that have come out. I mean, they seem to have taken a lot. There's a lot of things that they've obviously gone through, played WoW, and it's like, this is what we can execute. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's where a lot of people, when they launch MMOs, like, oh, we can't be like WoW. We've got to do it different. We've got to be so different, and they end up totally alienating. I gotta say, I love the companions. I think the idea that you get a companion by level 8 or 9 and you've got an extra gun in a fight or an extra pair of fists is a brilliant idea, because it makes some of the missions where you do need to group up a little less daunting, and you can actually pull some of them off solo.
It definitely makes sense, and it's actually kind of cool that they did that, because when you play an MMO, it's largely a social experience as much as it is, the grinding and leveling and customization part. I think it's neat that you get to interact with someone, even if it's not a real person.
Well, but you still have, and when you say interact, I mean, it's not just tell these guys to run over and shoot somebody in the corner. You do have to keep them sweet. It's funny with the Republic Smuggler, my sidekick. If I say nice things, I get his admiration, and then on the Sith Inquisitor side, this big 9-foot lump of muscle that's my backup guy, I have to be a total tool. And the more I am a tool and dark side decisions and just say I want to kill everything,
but that's just like classic BioWare, right?
And but that's great. But then you can also do things like give them. You can give
is
them
that how it feels though?
Yeah, it does feel very BioWare, and you can give them little gifts to keep them happy as well.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is
romance options.
No. Well, I haven't got to any romance options yet. But
have my eye on that Trandoshan.
Both my companions so far are dudes. That would make it very interesting. But the fact that you can also, you can buy the armor for your guys. You can upgrade their weapons as you go along. So, it does have this Mass Effect feel. I actually was watching a lot of people commenting as I was running around Coruscant, where everybody's like, oh my God, this looks and feels like what a Mass Effect MMO would feel like. And I can't quibble with that.
Yeah, circling back to a previous point you made about them, not risking alienating people that are familiar with World of Warcraft. I feel like at the same time, it's a bit of a missed opportunity, because when you have such a crazy IP like the Star Wars franchise, you have a lot of creative freedom there in terms of how you could take the game and combat and story and such.
Well, I guess you have as much creative freedom as George Lucas will let you have.
Right. But yeah, I feel like instead of them being able to find a new model that works within this crazy world of, future samurais and bounty hunters, instead they found a way to retrofit WoW to that, if that makes sense.
No, it makes sense. Brian, you were saying something?
One thing that I am kind of nervous about, I'm curious to see how it plays out, is this is kind of like playing KOTOR but with no save points. So like I could see myself, it's like when you're in a conversation, like there's no going back. Like if you're going to say something, like you might not know how much is this going to affect me, light side, dark side? Is my companion going to like this or not? And there's no going back.
You can actually quit out of the conversation midway by hitting escape.
Oh, I know, but but once you commit, once you've made that decision, once that thing is over.
That's part of the joy of playing an MMO, where it is like,
Oh, sure.
And the fact that you have these different characters where you with different storylines and significantly different storylines, you can go off and play and experiment. And I think that's one of the great things about MMOs like this is that just go with your gut, and if you want to be a dick, or whatever. And getting to level 12, I'm like, oh my God, I've cranked up so many of these dark side points for my Sith Inquisitor, and then I go and look at my character screen, and I'm expecting that the needle will be so deep in the red, and I'm barely moved off middle. So this game does have a lot of potential, and they're talking about adding the guild ships. And all the space battles are going to be upgraded, and everything's going to be coming in over the next couple of months. And I think that the next 12 months are going to be very interesting for people who buy the Old Republic. I'm kind of hooked right now. I'm in enjoying it. Not exactly a fan of the FedEx quests. I mean, this may be a galaxy far, far away, long, long ago, but their tech is advanced that they can have email. I mean, seriously, do I really need to take data pads from point A to point B when I'm a Sith Inquisitor? Have they not heard of texting?
Can't you turn in some quests from a distance? Like, I
you-
heard
it
my
depends.
friend was saying you can turn in quests for like your whole party almost.
You
like,
can you can update a couple of quests as you go by using the communicator, but it's only certain quests. And I mean, it's a standard MMO trope where it's like, all right, well, you're going to run to this guy, but on the way, to deliver it on the way, you're going to pick up 6 more quests. And Patrick made that point to me earlier this morning,
Yeah.
and that's valid because you do rack up, lots of experience points as you go forward. I'm just
and you can port around that world easier than you can World of Warcraft. Like
Right.
in Warcraft, you're just given one thing, and that sends you back to wherever you're living at the moment.
Speeder
where,
bike
like,
taxis.
You open up
And
the
the
map
quick travel.
on any
Yeah.
one map, and there's like 20, 30 different spawn points that you can just jump to.
Plus,
I think it's like
I
once every
think-
half an hour, an hour.
Yeah, and I think to offset that, you can send your companions out to do a lot of stuff for you.
Oh, cool.
So you can have them sell your items. You can have them
Right.
level up your professions.
And I love that when you talk to vendors, it clearly says in your inventory, like, you don't need this, sell it. Like
Yeah.
that, there are few MMOs that do that, that really make that clear.
Do you have 2 cents on the Old
Yeah,
Republic?
not playing it, and I'm not sure that I trust myself to because I spent too many months before I weaned myself from
Galaxies.
WoW. No. I played WoW, and I actually 3 months in realized it was a bad habit. So I'm really trying to avoid playing this one. I'm going to rely on guys like you to tell me whether it's good or not.
So let me ask you. This is the question we discussed earlier. Everybody's saying this is a $200 million game. EA and BioWare
Ton of
are
money.
not going to make any money off this. LucasArts is the only one who's going to make the money. It's going to be a total failure. They need to get 10 billion subscribers from day one. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I'd say bullshit on all of that. I know Bobby Kotick said that he actually said it very artfully. So what Bobby said is true. LucasArts is making the money, and LucasArts has zero investment, so whatever they get is infinite return. EA's cost is about 200 guys working for 3 years and about 400 people working for the last year. The average fully burdened wage of developers and artists in Edmonton, Alberta, and Austin, Texas, is maybe $100,000. That fully burdened means office occupancy, benefits, everything. So you're talking maybe $20 million a year for the first 3 years, maybe $40 million the last year. I can get to $100 million. $200 million I call bullshit. That just not. They have not been working on this game in stealth mode for 4 more years than we all know about. That's not possible. And so they have $100 million into it. The good news is if you're Electronic Arts, you expense R&D as you go. So that's already hit their income statement. They've already taken the hit on that $100 million to spend. And now the revenue is gravy. They get a lot of profit on the revenue. Their deal with Lucas is a first dollar payback on R&D. So that means that EA gets all the profit, all the revenue, everything until they make back that $100 million bucks. They have to spend marketing dollars. They don't get payback on that. So my guess is they'll sell about 2 million discs at the outset at $40 a piece, 80 million of revenue. They'll probably spend something like 15 million bucks marketing it, so that they'll have 65 million of profit. That's profit that Lucas gets nothing of. Break even on running the MMO. It's 250,000 subscribers at $15 a month for a normal MMO. Since Lucas gets about 35% of revenue on that, on the subscription stuff, break even's about 470,000 subs. So call it 500,000. They need 500,000 subs just to break even on an operating level. So that means the cost of the servers, cost of call centers, cost of continued just development in game, not expansion packs. And everything above 500,000 subs, they pretty much have a 30% direct cost to run, and they split the balance with LucasArts. So I would say 1.5 million subs. The extra million above the break even generates $180 million of revenue. EA makes 60 million bucks. That's not a bad business. They're going to make 60 million bucks a year until this thing fades. And if it goes higher than 1.5 million, they're going to make more.
And you got to think it's going to go higher than 1.5 million because at the end of the day, it does have the magic of the Star Wars
Yeah, I mean,
franchise
Galaxies
attached
is
to it.
awful, and it was. If you look at SOE's server list, it's one of the few games that has more than like one server.
Well, not anymore.
And I know they're shutting it down, but
they
even
actually
up,
did shut it down last week.
Yeah, was the game or something like that?
Yeah, so we'll
Yeah,
say we
I'd
actually
say-
will go. Rest in peace, Star Wars Galaxies.
I'd say if Conan can get 1 million, and Lord of the Rings can get 1 million, and Rift, which I thought was probably the best of those, can get 1 million, this thing easily starts at 1.5. And the trick about going higher than that is they have to win WoW subscribers over. So past level 12, past level 50, if you keep leveling up and it continues to be challenging, and if they can develop that social, glue where whole guilds come over and stay, then I think they'll succeed. The question is, is Blizzard going to sit on their butts and do nothing to win these people back? And the answer to that is no. They're going to try.
Well, Blizzard have to come, and I love World of Warcraft to death, but I'll admit I've let my WoW subscription lapse now while I'm playing the Old Republic. I think Blizzard needs to come at us with more than pandas.
I was just going to say, I don't think pandas is the answer. I'm just not really excited about that expansion.
I mean, the point you guys made earlier that this is kind of the best of the WoW clones, there's a reason why they cloned WoW, because they want the experience to be familiar to those guys.
Yeah.
The new guy who's never played an MMO, that's the formula that worked with WoW, so it'll work with them as well. But I really think to succeed, you got to win over 500,000, 1 million WoW subscribers and keep them. And I don't know if they'll do that or not.
For all the challenges we have faced, and all the places we have been, Azeroth's limits have yet to be revealed.
All right, that's our show. Thanks to everybody who's been on. Thank you to everybody who's tuned in this year and has commented. And thanks to everybody who called me a racist last week. Much love to you two guys as well.
You're more of a bigot than a racist.
Look, I'm going to take just 10 seconds to explain where I was coming from. Shane started talking about this, and it was the first I'd heard about it. And the reason I had such a reaction, I've actually worked at 2 companies in my career where where workplace bullying was actually very commonplace, and it upset me. It's something that is, to me, is something that's very offensive. Now, I know I didn't communicate that in the best way last week, and I apologize for not communicating it. I don't want to come off as a racist or a bigot. I do understand Japanese culture. I've been there a few times. I love the place. I think it's a phenomenal place, but I do stand by my issue that you don't name and shame your staff. You do that behind closed doors. Could you imagine if Todd Howard or Cliffy B did that with their team? There would be an outcry in this country. With regards to the speech at the VGAs, the reason I was irked at Kojima was that Miyamoto had been up on stage 20 minutes earlier to accept the Zelda Hall of Fame induction, and he delivered an excellent speech. And then if you go on YouTube, you can go back to GDC, I think last year, where Kojima actually got a Lifetime Achievement Award and delivered a phenomenal speech in almost perfect English. And so that's the standards I hold him to. And I think that, if you are going to come to a video game event in the US or wherever it is, and you're addressing a predominantly English-speaking audience, and you have the capability to do it, you should be able to deliver that speech in that language. If the boo's on the other foot and we went to Japan to do Invisible Walls for a Japanese audience, which will never happen because they have way better taste than that. But we would try our best to be able to at least introduce the various segments. So anyway, I didn't communicate it well last week, which got a lot of people upset. I still stand by my views on the subject, while I don't really stand by perhaps why I got a little bit foul-mouthed. And just to reiterate, my views do not represent the views of Game Trailers. I am a freelancer. So anyway, sorry, somebody just reminded me that I was called a typical American racist on the comments. Yeah, I'm from Wales, population 3 million. And if I was a racist, I wouldn't move to America, and in particular Los Angeles, which is probably the most racially diverse city in the US, in the world possibly. So anyway, let's crack on. I just want to say Merry Christmas, have a Happy Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate this holiday season. Celebrate it with your family, with your friends, play some games. Thank you very much for everything you've done for us by watching and commenting during 2011. We will be back in January. Shane will be back in the hot seat. Have a great time. Invisible Walls, for the last time in 2011, is up and out.